All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Ask Me Anything BYOB Money Multiplier Happy Hour. We are here to answer your questions. Get them in the chat box over there on the side. We're going to answer them all around infinite banking, becoming your own banker, real estate, hockey, whatever you got. We're going to answer those questions. So grab a drink, get your questions ready, and we're going to have a good time for the next 60 minutes. Be right back in 14 seconds for some quick introductions. All right, welcome to Ask Me Anything. We're here to answer all your questions, so get those over in the chat box, and we'll start with that. But before then, let's introduce ourselves so you guys know who we are. If it's your first time here, my name's Stephen Nagy. I'm down here in Florida. Just doing a little tailgating. I think I'm going to do some tailgating right now. We got the Florida Panthers Game 5, going to beat up on the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight at 7 o'clock. But more importantly, we have Game 2 of the Tournament of Champions for the local Little League, which is this evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. Yes, that's correct. 8 p.m. Eastern, game time start. So it's about 50 minutes north of me. So my third grade son should get home by midnight for bed tomorrow morning for school. So that should be interesting. And he is also playing principal for the day tomorrow, as I won an auction item for his PTA at school. So he gets to follow around and shadow the principal tomorrow. So that's fun. So it's going to be a interesting next, 18 hours for my 9-year-old son. With that being said, I'll pass it over to Miss Shauna Decker. What's up, Shauna?
Hello. Just getting back from Texas and already ready for the next event.
I have a question about that.
Okay.
Is it true what they say that everything is bigger in Texas? What do you think?
I don't know. Yes, the mall was bigger.
There you have it, folks. The malls are bigger in Texas.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, and then Damien, we received your package up here, and Chris will be in the office next Wednesday. And so it's still wrapped up, and we will open it live on Ask Me Anything next week. Thank you for sending us some goodies.
What is that? What is that about?
He said it was a live fish. You need to open it right away.
Yeah, Damien sent us a box of stuff.
Wow. All right. That sounds exciting. I'll have to be here next Wednesday then.
All right, cool. But that's it. Just, I don't know. I'm here.
All right.
Pass it over to Brian.
Brain
Thanks for having me.
Brain Foods. Hey, everybody, Brian here, up in out in the country, North Idaho. Kind of funny. So I live pretty far away from populated areas. So my wife and I don't get to do date nights anymore. So we had a date afternoon yesterday, and kids are at school. So what do? We go out into the forest, go walk around, and pick mushrooms. That's my wife for our afternoon date. So that's what we did yesterday for a date night. So we had a bunch of fun hunting for morel mushrooms. But yeah, that's the country life out here. So there you go. So yeah, but yeah, exactly. But yeah, I got a lot of calls this week. My calendar is packed, so it's pretty cool, having a lot of fun conversations. But with that, I'll go down to Bree.
So if you start like chasing around aliens and you ate some of those mushrooms before the show, or what? All right.
Actually, I did. I had some for
more
lunch.
after the mushrooms. It's the weirdest thing.
I did. Yeah. Well, morel mushrooms are really popular. They're hard to get and stuff. But yeah. That's what we did. So I had some for lunch, actually. That's funny.
All righty then.
By the way, Stephen, how come you're all polka dotted in green?
Well, hello, I'm Bree. I'm up here in Alaska. I'm Joe's warden, who's over there a little bit preoccupied, but I run his email and his calendar. I also have been practicing IBC for just over 3 years, as well as the one-pot HELOC method as of this year in January. And all we've had going on is yard work because the snow is gone, and 'tis the time to clean up all of the fallen trees. And the more trees that we cut down and we try to keep up with cutting into firewood and then leaving in stacks. And we're tripping over these hills in the deep grass. I'm realizing it's probably from the previous owners thinking the same thing. We're going to cut down the trees and get them all chopped up. And then they didn't get to it. And then the next year came, so they chopped down more. So we're fighting time right now. Yeah. With that, I'll take it over to Craig.
Well, also, Bree, let's clarify something. So you're a lot more than Joe's warden and email handler. Like I've heard you talk with clients. You are very, very, very knowledgeable and you're an expert at this stuff. So anybody that speaks with you and works with you, it could not be in better hands. So I just wanted to
thank you. I
mention
really
that.
appreciate that.
And I think it's incredible that you live in Alaska because it takes a different breed to live out there. And it's amazing. So it's very cool stuff, man. Very, very cool stuff. All right, Craig.
All right, Craig Yenny from the South Denver area. And I know Shane, we share the Colorado Front Range together and just got back from Dallas. I'll tell you, Stephen, you asked a question about is everything bigger in Texas? And I'll tell you, when you're riding the Cog Railway up Pikes Peak that's out of Manitou Springs, they make a point to mention, for all of you in Texas, look out the window and they're talking about the boulders. That's what we call gravel. All right. So not everything's bigger in Texas.
All right.
But anyway, just got back from Dallas, had a great time out there. Shane, Justin, many of the people I see on here, we got to meet in person. It was really awesome to spend time with those folks and just get to know them in more detail and really just kind of noodle on some different ideas. I know Joe and I were talking about stuff, and it just is great when we're all together. But anyway, I'll stop rambling. On to Joe Helock.
Joe from Buffalo, New York with Shauna, and just came back from Texas. It was a great time seeing everybody there and meeting up with some people that I never met before and meeting again with some of the people that I have met before and had a nice, wonderful time again. Answering calls all day long and was still on the phone when this started. So let's keep answering questions. Bring them in.
Who are you handing it to?
I'll go next. Joe, thank you, Joe, for handing it to me. I'm here in the city, beautiful Orlando. Blessed as always to be here with all of you. Get your questions into the chat. I don't have anything that's quite as interesting as hunting for mushrooms or tripping over trees in the yard after the snow melted. So I will just leave it at, I was outside right before this writing thank you cards to all of you. That's about it. So pass it over to my man, Ethan, that way. There we go.
Hello, everybody. Ethan Evans from the implementation team and also another money mentor as well. I got to play a little bit of hooky today and go on a field trip with my kids' school to a Lansing lug nuts game here in Lansing, Michigan. So that was a lot of fun getting to do that and celebrate some competitions they'd had. So got to take a little break with that and excited to get back in and answer your questions. And I will back up Brian and say that as a Michigander here, we also do morel mushroom hunting. Definitely cool. And it can get competitive. I'm not on the edge yet, but my son, who's quite the brain, he can tell me all about mushrooms. So not weird. That's a fun one. So,
yep.
All right, let's do some questions.
All righty. I asked Steven to start, but obviously he can't listen. So here we go. Marine Vet Mom says 62, 17.5 years as a school nurse, want to buy a home and have less than $8,000 to pay on a vehicle. Her account, small savings and small pension, still collecting a little before FRA. Any suggestions?
Sounds like financial advice.
It does.
So I would say anything we say here is not financial advice, but I mean, there's probably a bit more information we need to know, because if you're looking to incorporate infinite banking into your overall strategy, definitely more information that we would need to know about your situation, what kind of house you're trying to buy, the amounts, how you're going to fund a policy, how the policy would play into all this. There's a lot more going on. So, I mean, honestly, I suggest just hopping on a call with one of us and kind of going through those details.
Very good, Foots. Very good.
Okay. Justin saying, hey, Justin, what's up? Hypothetically, if you have a loan at 3.5% for a piece of equipment and your policy is lent out already making money for you, would it be a good idea to utilize a 0% credit card to transfer to pay that 3.5% loan?
0% credit transfer.
There's still going to be a cost in that, isn't there?
It usually is. Yeah.
And it is usually about 3%, I swear, because I've looked at this for my mom to transfer debt for her, and I swear it was 3%. So you might be stuck there.
Craig's doing the math in his head. Give him a second. He's gonna respond with a spreadsheet.
Well, I mean, some of it depends on how long that is going to be out. But the way I always look at this, Justin, is when I'm taking a loan from my warehouse, whether it's coming from the policies or the HELOC, I'm always looking for where's the cheapest money. Now, the policies are great because they'll compound and grow. But for me right now, my cheapest money is my HELOC. And so that's where I'm taking a lot of my money while I'll leave most of the money in the policies. And traditionally, that's flipped. We're going to try to keep the least amount of money in the policies to fill up the HELOC. But I've always just kind of looked at it like, where's the cheapest money? If you can get that taken care of for a 0% credit transfer, and maybe it's a 2.9% transfer over and it's going to be cheaper, then that's what I would do.
I'm thinking about the control element too. Like, don't forget about that piece of it. Like, once you do something with the banks again, now you're back on structured payment schedules and other things where if you're borrowing from yourself, you give yourself a little bit more built-in flexibility. So something to consider.
I'm the same way.
And to that point, it's very simple to take from one pile and move it to the other pile if you needed to. So even if you've got the money on a credit card or some sort of credit line at 0%, you could always take the money back out of the policy and wipe it out if you needed to. So you still have that control. It's just, ideally you need to think about how much is that going to cost you to move it over to that 0%.
All right. Next question. That little brown dog says, example, if I borrow against my policy at 5% and figure my loan repayment back at 10% to recapture more interest, can you reiterate where exactly does the extra 5% go?
Ooh. It depends. Good, Fouts. You got some thoughts?
Well, it's two places I look at it. One, if your policy does have additional room for PUAs, put it back into the policy as cash value through the PUA. You just have to call us up or call up the insurance company to see how much room you have in addition to your regular deposit you have to put that in. The other place is you can put it into a separate account outside of the policy to save that up and use it for maybe a second policy or other investments for whatever you want. So it's kind of up to you and up to the policy, but those are kind of two of the main options that we talk about.
Yeah, if you don't have room, like when we talk about this, when we teach this, when you see Chris teaching a lot of videos, when he's talking about paying back extra, or they talk about it in the equipment financing in Nelson's book, if there's not room, that's going back to your segregated account just to build up for whatever you're going to use that for, an opportunity fund, paying off something, maybe starting additional policies. If you do have room, like Brian said, you want to put it back in the policy because it's going to expand your policy. It's going to give you more cash value, and it's going to increase the likelihood of dividends.
I've actually heard of some people that actually what they're doing is if they're, depends on what you're doing with the policy though. So if you're private lending it out, as an example, they're running that through an LLC or an entity first, and then they are, let's say, lending it out at 15% on private deal, but their interest on their policy is 5%. They'll capture that 10% spread inside the LLC where they have deductions and other things to make sure they maintain as much of that money as possible. So that's another way to kind of do it.
All right.
Joe, you're on mute.
Oh, Joe, were you talking there, Joe? Sorry.
I says, now come on, I can't leave that one alone.
Okay, we'll keep it going.
It was so
I
peaceful.
thought you were going to say something, but yeah.
I says, we're only putting 5% back in for a total of 10. Why don't you put more in? It's still your money. The more money that you put through it, the less interest you're going to pay in the long run, and it's still yours to take back out. Who's to say that you only have to put in 10% to recapture? You can put more than that. Utilize velocity banking, put more through it, and then you still have more to borrow back out the next time when you put your deposit in. Just saying, there's no numbers associated with this. There's nothing etched in stone. You can put in as much as you want and take back as much as you want, just as long as you don't fill the bucket over. That's all.
Yeah, and Joe, I think let's expand on that because some may not have picked up on it, but what you're talking about is you're keeping the money in motion, putting 10% in gives you more to take out and put in motion. And so running that 10% in is going to give you more access immediately to then go deploy it out to do something else. Whereas if everything was static and you're paying that 10% back, eventually you'll pay the loan back. Mm-hmm. And I think the question was, where does that go? And so I think it just depends on how your money's going through the system. But like what you're talking about is keeping it all moving, which you
Absolutely.
do. Yep.
Absolutely. And the interest would diminish to what you're paying back to the insurance company. So it wouldn't be 5%, would it, Craig?
It would not.
I would see it as a loan interest reversal on my statements.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And this is where I got it from. There's the prodigy right there.
I didn't know it was velocity banking, but that's what it was.
She was like, "Oh, that's what I was doing. I was doing velocity, and I didn't even know."
All right. Okay. Damien said, I would like to ask, with all the deportations that are going on, how much has Orlando been affected by this? Anyone in Orlando have any feedback?
Jason?
I don't know anything. I don't watch the news. I looked over at Patty. She doesn't have any feedback either.
Okay. And we're in Buffalo, so we don't know. I don't know.
I know some people that got sent out.
Okay.
Did you send them out?
Whistleblower.
Steven
you didn't like that neighbor. You won that lot.
Steven was doing text to tip.
Well, it's really interesting though. I mean, it's one of those things where like so someone on our team actually was living here and wanting to become U.S. citizens, or his wife has been trying to become a U.S. citizen, and with and they were able to come to the U.S. under Biden administration, one of the rules they had, and that rule changed with Trump, and so they just had to leave the country because if they didn't leave the country, they could have stayed, but if something would have happened, then they would have been disqualified for 10 years to her to become a citizen. So they had to leave to be able to do the right things to try and then come back the right way now. So little things like that. Also know a lady that has a cabinet business, and 3 of her workers that she's had for several years just got sent out of the U.S. So it's I don't know, but I've heard some landscapers and stuff, and some local Facebook pages, but you know how local Facebook pages are. So I don't know how much you can believe in that stuff, but it's definitely interesting to see the difference.
And then Christian Omar is saying, not yelling, but question was missed. Who's popping the top again today? Is that you, Steven?
Popping the top, baby. I don't know. I'm not drinking. I just got this energy drink. I figure I'll be up till midnight tonight anyway. So I don't know. It's pretty good. Usually I'd be drinking like melatonin or something, or gummies or something, because getting ready for bed. But staying up tonight, so I got the Zoa going.
It's not even 1 o'clock here yet, but that means it's 5 o'clock somewhere, and it's about to be 5 o'clock for you. And I run on Joe's Standard Time, so I could, but no, I got to go to the DMV after this. So after the DMV for sure.
What you say that it's actually pretty good with a little vodka in there, so we'll see. We'll mix it up a little bit in a minute.
All right. And then Arturo is saying, I'm new to all this concept. I follow Christy Van. I really want to go over this with somebody, and I'd like to know the actual cost to set up a policy.
It's expensive.
Zero.
This is not Money Max, so we'll do everything for free.
We told someone today $1 million IOU on a napkin would suffice.
All right, I'll see if I can actually give them a real answer. So here's what you'd want to do is, and I know when you're working with Christy, she's got you filling out the kind of the spreadsheet with all your debts and income. And so you want to make sure there's clarity on what the debts are and make sure those are all defined. And then if you want to book a call with our team, we'll run you through how that debt can be paid off the most efficient order, and then how the policy can be used to pay down that debt. So absolutely book a call with someone on our team. Make sure you come to that with your debts. We don't charge to do any of that. We actually get paid through the insurance company, so there's no cost to you.
And keep learning.
Next step.
And keep learning. Make sure you're saving, you're paying yourself first. Like Craig said, get clarity on how much disposable income do you have each month, and get real clarity on where you're at financially. That'll be the biggest gift you can give yourself. And then learn more about the process, because then you'll ask different questions about the cost. So
We won't even let you get a policy if you don't understand it. So education first and foremost.
Yeah, I'll just add to that too and say I'm glad that you're already familiar with Velocity Banking. I do see a lot of success with our members, but they tend to get to my stage and they're ready to implement and their policies got enforced. You're picking up some good habits along the way with Velocity Banking of getting your debts in order, getting a plan together. But there is a mindset shift again. Infinite Banking works differently than Velocity Banking does. There's some good crossover in terms of understanding that time value of money and a little bit of kind of how the policy loans work. But you can't. But you also can't treat Infinite Banking exactly the same way as how you treat Velocity Banking. So I could go more into that, but that just some observations to share.
They work so wonderfully when combined.
Yep, they really do.
Right. And then Robert saying, how do I access the bonus 3-day virtual private banking event for scheduling a money mentor call? Robert, I just emailed you, so just check in your inbox. Okay, and then shout out.
Was that an offer we did?
He probably purchased already. I saw him and he just attended the Money Take virtual as well. So he's probably just looking to find those again.
Yeah, cool. I was just curious.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Kathleen.
Kathleen is saying we just got approved for our first policy. Thanks for all your help, Brian.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then she's also asking, what are your thoughts on crypto?
Don't touch it. I don't touch it. I've built training courses on crypto, so I've been heavily involved before. But today I just don't touch it. So, I mean, it's one of those 10% things. If you want to take 10% of your investment portfolio and put it into the most volatile, craziest thing ever, crypto could potentially be that. But yeah, I personally don't touch it.
I don't like it because every time we go ride with a couple of guys I ride with, the guy won't buy if crypto's down, and crypto's always been down lately. So he's not buying any coffee for anyone.
Crypto's down?
Every time that's what he tells us, and I don't look at it, so I just believe him. So.
Bitcoin's been at all-time highs for the last couple weeks.
I think he's lying to you.
I think he
owes me some coffee.
Yeah, he owes you coffee.
He's probably saying it now because he's buying
if you're
it.
listening, brother, I'm on to you.
We do tend to stick with more like I don't know what you would call it. Not even traditional investments, but things like private money lending, and Craig, you're getting some of the oil and gas stuff and some of the different real estate projects and things of that nature. But crypto is just out there, and it's I don't know. We talk about it a lot though.
Right. Damien is saying, about my first policy, if it is good for 10 years, how do I continue to make money off of it?
I'm wondering if Damien, you have a 10 pay where you're paying premiums for 10 years. The thing to remember is it's a whole life policy, so you have it for your whole life. And even at the 10-year mark, it just means the insurance is paid up in some policies, some companies you can add a little bit more in, but it's regardless, it's going to continue to grow and compound and grow and compound, so you can continue to use it.
Could it be a policy just a key ways of dropping off at 10 years?
I don't know. It sounds like he's either got a 10 pay or it was illustrated with 10 years of premiums. But either way, it's going to continue to grow and compound even after that point of not putting premiums in.
And you can keep moving your money in and out of the policy and loans and things after that point too. So you can keep making money that way, and you'll keep earning dividends. So.
Okay. Interesting. Brian Richardson is saying, when you talk about not having room for more PUA, who monitors that and prevents you from hitting MEC?
The insurance company. Yeah, that's something I tell all my clients from day one, is that whether they're on a monthly premium or an annual premium, whatever, that they can, every time after they pay a premium, just check with the insurance company or with someone I can check for them to look and see, here's exactly how much more you can put in, and you just want to know what that number is, and whether it's $1 or $1,000 or more, you just want to target taking any extra cash you have out of your pocket, out of your wallet, and putting it in there first if you can, because that's just going to grow and further expand your policy even more. But it's the insurance company's job to monitor that.
Do you have access to Mass Mutual too?
I don't think I do for Mass Mutual. I'd have to check, Joe. That's a good question.
From my understanding, Joe, no matter what, they have to go back to the actuarial team and have them actually run the proprietary software to tell them how much additional room, if any, without mecking it. So I would guess, actually, it's not the insurance company. It's probably the IRS that governs this, because it's a 7-pay, and that's why it was put in place in '88, right? I mean, if you're going down to
back in the 80s.
if you're going down to why and who monitors it, and if it's proprietary, it's probably the IRS. But the insurance company will be able to tell you.
This is where I want them to catch up with Guardian's portal, because I can see it right there, PUA limit before MEC. And
That's cool.
It allows me to, I thought it was standard, and then I learned the hard way. I'm like, what? So I'm hoping they're getting my weekly letters.
And we can always have your agent run an in-force illustration and go into the writer's table and play with. I do that for my own. I just put in a bunch of money and see where it's going to break. So that can be done through the insurance company policy services. Your agent or the implementation team can help you with that.
Yes.
Oh, and one more thing about that before we leave. I haven't done this, but I think Devin and Brent were talking about at one point where they purposely sent in more money than they knew would fit in a MEC. And what the result was, the insurance company sent back the money with a letter saying, if you really want to do this, sign this letter, send it back in, we'll MEC your policy. So there were some safeguards there where they won't just automatically MEC it, but I haven't personally tried that myself. But just their experience says that's what they did.
I still have no idea why they did that. I remember that story. I was like, that's crazy. Why would you do that? Just to see if it would MEC.
Yep.
Yeah.
They double checked the system.
Yeah.
I have Security Mutual Life for one of my policies, and I have Mass Mutual for the others. And I accidentally paid too much. They sent me the check back, and then it's super easy when I go to pay my premium. It's like pay the amount, pay the maximum, or pay the minimum. There's like 3 bubbles that I can pick to make that payment.
Yeah, I've seen that with other clients from other carriers too, where they, again, to your point, Shauna, accidentally, fat fingered something on the keyboard, and it's okay. They've got the bells and whistles, they've got the safeguards built in. So yeah, we'll help you. We'll help you avoid that.
I was pleasantly surprised when the check came back. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Guess I overpaid. Jay is saying if unable to purchase a dividend paying whole life insurance policy, would like to know how to best use rollover IRA if you're unable to get whole life.
Steven knows a guy.
Yeah, I use Horizon. That's usually who we recommend and refer people to. They've been great for using my self-directed IRA. I moved some of my old IRAs over and then use that for doing private money loans, buying raw land, different things like that.
And Jay and we spoke today. So I know you didn't mention the IRA, but I know you have a large amount in a 401k. So what you might be looking at doing is rolling the 401k over to a self-directed IRA. Horizon Trust is a company that we know and like and trust. But yeah, so you can roll it over to that company and then have control of it to put it into other vehicles and like the real estate deals that you're doing, other projects you're doing. So yeah, and let me know, and we can always do an introduction there.
And I think Joe and Chris say this too. It's you can be your own bank with it, whether it's with the HELOC or with the whole life policy or with the self-directed IRA. It's all kind of the same process, right? It's just what you have available. And if you don't have whole life available and you have that, you can do what we're all doing.
Just another bucket.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then Christian Omar is saying, has anyone heard of starting investing with $90 with Del Mar Energy and earning 27% monthly? Didn't know if it was a Facebook scam or not. I have never heard of that.
If it sounds too good to be true, probably
Thinking the same thing, Fouts.
Yeah.
Thinking the same thing.
Especially $90. That's the biggest red flag right there for me.
Yep. When they make it seem like it's okay to invest with very small amounts, like penny stocks, they're just trying to shorten the links on the chain to get you more adjusted to being okay with loss.
That sounds like a lot of commingling of funds.
Very true.
And commingling of funds is where the SEC gets involved, by the way. So there you go.
Nina is asking, how long must you keep a policy for? Is there a penalty on taking a policy then canceling for any reason?
Well,
no penalty. No penalty. It's a unilateral contract. The insurance company is assuming all the risk. You're paying you got 3 guarantees: your guaranteed growth, your guaranteed death benefit, your guaranteed level premium. And if you surrender at any point, they will just return whatever cash value you have back to you. So don't know why you would surrender or why that is the question. You're just looking if you can get out. The answer is yes. It's a unilateral contract.
Nina might be thinking of a traditional whole life where you just keep putting the money in and it's a bill, like $50 a month. And you just keep on doing that $50 a month forever. And you keep the same death benefit. Our policies are built differently. We build them upside down and backwards. So we actually put the money in and utilize that for banking with the PUA portion. The base portion is what the traditional insurance companies are using. We add PUA, which gives you the banking aspect of it, and that's overfunding. So you would never want to stop putting money into your policy because the dividends and interest grow until you stop breathing.
Yeah. And to your point, Joe, when I'm walking new clients through their policy and showing them their policy tools that we create, and I'll show them by which year they're hitting their efficiency points and even more, and I'll compare it to to this question of when can I stop paying. I'll say, look at your cash and cash return. If you're putting in $1 for the premium and how much more money, how much more cash value that's creating in that year. It'd be like if you slid me $1 on the table and I slid you $1.50 or $2 back, why? And then each time it was more and more that I was giving you back. Why would you want to stop playing that game? Why would you want to stop feeding money into that banking policy? But yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. And to the second point of that, is there a penalty on taking a policy to cancel for any reason? So when we respond, we're responding about infinite banking whole life bill policies. But a couple of days ago, I had a call and unfortunately had to share with somebody that they had a universal life policy that had very, very high surrender fees and charges. Universal life. And I have personal experience with these kinds of policies, unfortunately. But this person had put in, I want to say it was, I don't know, $10,000 into this policy. The cash value was only like $3,000 after 2 years, and the surrender fee was $5,000 and change, which means if that person cancels that policy, they get nothing. The cash value, they can't even borrow from it because the surrender charge is over the amount of the cash value and will be so for years into the future, about 3 to 5 years. So that person did not realize that. The person that set it up for them did not tell them that. They thought they could borrow right off the bat, and all of a sudden they realized they can't. And the policy is actually, I'll be honest, is garbage. Their cash value will be lower than their total amount they put in for like 15, 18 years. And so I had to deliver that unfortunate news to them. And that person was so happy they were actually writing an email to the agent that set that up while I was talking to him. And I did not recommend anything, but they were canceling that policy because when they heard how it was built, they were very upset. So when we're responding with infinite banking policies, but there are other policies that do have surrender fees and penalties.
And Nina, depending on how the policy is built, me and Bree just got off the phone with a guy who was doing a dump, and he was running $35,000 a year through his policy. In year 2, he was taking out $36,000, so he was already money tree in year 2. It just depends on how the policy is built and what kind of numbers you're putting in for your banking.
And this is a great question, so I'm glad that Nina asked it. Almost everyone's had something to say about it. And when I initially saw this, where my mind went was on, is there a penalty on taking a policy, then cancel it for any reason? So I initially thought if you started the policy and then you decide I don't want it, there is a free look period for about 20 days. So if you start a policy and all of a sudden you're 10 days into it, 15 days into it, you can say, you know what, I don't want this. I want out. I changed my mind. They'll give you a full refund. However, from that point forward, until you hit that efficiency point, I wouldn't call it a penalty necessarily, but if you do cancel the policy, you're not going to get all your money back. There will be, say you put in $5,000, you're not going to get that full $5,000 back. So you could look at that as a penalty, but it's not nearly as severe as what Brian was talking about with those horrible IUL things we hear about. And the other thing to remember too is the insurance company doesn't want you to stop it because they don't make money for probably the first 7 years of a policy. You will lose, they will lose, everyone loses if you have to cancel it. So the most important thing we want to make sure is it's solving the problem you're after to solve. And we want to make sure that the cash flow you have is sustainable to be able to do the policy. So we get some people coming in, just like when you walk into a buffet and they're like grabbing all this food, and want to do all this stuff, and they build these big policies and then they find out they can't sustain them. So all of that stuff is important, but there are some, free look periods, but then after that, just know that until you get to that efficiency point that we've shared with you, you won't get everything back that you put into it.
Hey, Craig, on the flip side of that too, we were just talking about this today, but when you start a policy, you have, we submit an application for you, and it takes some time to get through underwriting, on average a couple months, although that's speeding up right now, but let's say 6 weeks. So another option, on the opposite side of how long you have to keep it, is you can actually put a monthly premium deposit down with the application, and you're immediately covered for death benefit at that point. So even while you're going through underwriting for this application process, your family's immediately protected from day one of starting that application. So very important if you're starting a new policy to do that and make sure you're protecting your family.
Yeah, following Stephen, Nelson Nash said when they asked him, hey, Nelson, what's the danger of infinite banking concept? He said, well, not participating. So
yeah, page 49, page 49 of the book, right?
I don't even know if it's in the book, that part.
It is 49.
Page 49. Nice job, Steve. Nice job.
I memorized it.
For Nina, that would be the other side of it is, the penalty of canceling, if you're getting a protection for your family and things, it's a penalty to them in that way as well. Since we went in all directions, might as well go there too. So.
Because we did go in all directions, can we come back? What is the answer? What's the final answer? Because I feel like some people said nothing, and then Craig said you won't get all the money, you put it back in. What is the answer?
The final answer is we love Nina's hair. I love your little photo there.
Yeah, that's a good photo. There's no penalty. You get back whatever cash value you have when you surrender a policy. There's no additional penalty unless, like we've all learned after having many conversations. I used to just kind of be IUL agnostic, not really have much emotion. You talk to enough people who are stuck in them with high surrender charges. If it's an IUL, you will have a surrender charge. That is not what we'll ever help you do. So give Steven some more energy drink. Let's go.
Okay, cash value.
Head to the baseball fields.
Hey, good luck. Good luck
Thanks,
to your son.
See you guys next week.
See you, Steven.
So I guess, Shauna, you wanted the final answer is how long must you keep a policy? Your whole life? Is there a penalty? No, because you're going to keep it for your whole life.
Okay.
Good answer.
All right.
All right, and then you sort of hit on it a little bit, Craig, is Damien saying my next policy is going to be with a dump-in when I go on my next mission. What would be a good ideal policy for number 3? And you kind of hit on that buffet style and people kind of add things. So when is number 2 and number 3 good?
And I think this was Wealth Webinar 2 weeks ago. We talked about how to expand your system, but it's one of those things, Damien, where we want to just make sure the cash flow's there, that it makes sense to start that third policy. And what would be a good policy for number 3? I mean, like if you're doing a dump in and you want to minimize premium, we've got some good strategies. Joe, we do the old 50-50 sometimes. And so I'd say just book a call with whoever your money mentor is, and we can kind of run through some options for you. And also it kind of depends on what you're trying to accomplish with it.
Yeah, it depends. It depends.
All right. And then we've got a few questions left. I know we got about 15, 20 minutes left on the clock. So Shane saying, have you found that the additional PUA is similar after the 7 or 10 pay is over? Example, one of my policy allows for about 900 additional PUA each year. Will the 900 typically be the same in year 11?
Depends on the carrier, depends how it's built. If that's One America, if whatever your base is, it'll be times 3. You can put that much PUA into it. So if you had a $5,000 base in year 11, you could put an extra 15,000 in PUAs at some point during that year. Now, other carriers, Craig, like Lafayette and things, it depend if you have like what the riders are on it, how much additional PUAs you could put in, if any, right? So.
And that's running an in-force illustration would be helpful too, to be able to look further ahead and let once you get to years 10 and 11, is there going to be a lot extra or hardly any? But yeah.
Okay. Maritza is saying, I have a prudential annuity. Can it be converted to a whole life insurance?
No, annuities are, and I guess the question is, are you already taking income from the annuity? If so, that annuity income could be put into a whole life insurance as premiums, which we do a lot of times for retirement, where people might have a qualified annuity. They want to get the money out of that into a whole life insurance for, taxable, tax favored estate planning. But if you're trying to take the whole chunk of annuity, and if it's qualified annuity, you're going to have to pay penalties and fees to get that out of there.
Okay. Arturo is saying there must be some sort of medical exam or medical conditions that are not going to allow someone to get one of these policies. Could you name those?
A1C above 7.
Yeah, and there's just some medical conditions that are kind of on the edge, and what we can do there is if you have a condition that you're concerned about, what we can do is run that through what we call preliminary underwriting. So you would book a call with one of us. We'd get some information about what is that condition, are you taking certain medications, how often, what dosage, and we can put that without having to go through an official process. We can post that to the insurance company's underwriting departments and just say, would you consider this? And oftentimes they'll come back and let us know whether it's something we should even pursue. They may have some follow-up questions. So I'd say if there's a specific concern you have, just get with one of us and we can help do that preliminary underwriting with you.
Yeah. The more specific you have about whatever your concerns are, like if it was a pre-existing diagnosis or a surgery, the more details you have and what kind of follow-up you've done, the more we'll be able to give to that preliminary team too. So.
Yeah, and ultimately, what is it? The insurance company is betting on you to live long. So there's obviously conditions that are good, better, or best for them. And then something I always found very interesting was that it also matters on your behavior. So things like DUIs and stuff like that, even though that's not a medical condition, that is a risk factor. And I remember I really didn't understand that at first when I heard that at face value, but then the risk factor, it's risky on your behaviors and stuff like that. That made a lot more sense when I thought about, what really is whole life for. It's betting that you're going to live a long time. So you got to make those right decisions.
Would underwater welders be able to qualify? I'm not sure if that's one, because they have an average age of 35, 40 years old.
Holy moly, I didn't know that.
If there's a career path like that, joining the A team or something, that might have an impact. So.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to look at, again, behaviors like Sean was talking
Hobbies,
about. So that is one of the 4 areas that they're going to look at, right? Behavior, health. So.
Yeah, we had someone get declined because they had overshared on a question that was just asking for a certain time period. And they said, no, I haven't done anything. But, when I was this old, I was really trying all these different things. So they got a decline. Unfortunate, but that's the case. So they look back on history.
True. Mm-hmm. That's some good feedback too. Mm-hmm. Arturo is also saying, I have term insurance. Is that something that could be used to convert to a policy that you guys do?
If it's convertible term, maybe.
Depends. Well, that's a good question, but why would you want to convert it? That's the first question, is why would you want to convert it? Because the only reason why you convert term to whole life is because you might not be insurable. And so I had this question with the client yesterday, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I definitely want to do the conversion." I'm like, "Are you insurable? Are you healthy?" They're like, "Yeah, of course I am." I'm like, "Well, then you don't need to do the conversion. Just go through the process."
If they got a better rating at a younger age or something, we just went on the meeting about that. Yeah, that might change things. But I personally just once I understood, I'm like, I don't want my term anymore, so I canceled that and got over to a whole life.
Just for another perspective, though, I mean, people also say, hey, I just started my whole life policy. Should I cancel my term? And again, it depends. The good thing about it is it's cheap life insurance. God forbid if something happens in the next, 5, 10, 20 years, now your family would get that extra benefit. And again, kind of going back to Brian's question, why do you really want to? What's the problem we're trying to solve? Have you hit your max of total life insurance and we need to, do like essentially a replacement, or is it just because you love whole life more than term? It depends. Like I've still got some old term policies that I'll hang on to for a little while longer.
Same. I have a couple term. I've talked about it here before, but it's a good place to bring it back up. I'm still carrying a term until Connor turns 18, until I replace it with whole life. So if it's cheap, if it's giving you coverage, if it's meeting your needs, there's not a wrong way to do it. So yeah.
Yep. I also still have my term that I got originally just because I was a mom, and I got it for the real reason that you get life insurance is to make sure that your kids have something, right? And then also term, it adds to how much coverage you have. So if you are getting children's policies, you're covered that much more, which means you unlock a little bit more for your kids, things like that. Not that applies to everybody though. Lydia is saying, if my first policy loan amount is the maximum allowed at the moment, would I be unable to borrow again with paying back the initial loan first, or is it just a lesser amount each time?
So, with my first policy that I started on monthly premium only, I put in my monthly premium. A week later, I took a loan against a cash value. And then the next month, I put in my next month's premium, paid back my whole loan, took out another loan because I could take out more. I kept doing velocity banking with it and noticed, yes, if you only have, if you've already paid your premium and you're in between your billing cycle, you won't be able to pay any more premium. So the only feasible way to get more money in there, if you don't have any other PUA, would be to pay back towards your loan, and that's when you would be able to borrow those dollars again. And you're also reversing the interest rate when you do that.
Two parts of it. I like to compare it to I like to hold up my coffee cup and say, your loan available is just like, water, your coffee in a cup. You can pour some out, and then as you repay the loan, you've got more that comes back in, which can then be taken out as another loan. I think another part of what Lydia might be asking is, the initial, so the max loan amount of what we see on the illustrations, that's always an end of year number. And in that first month, you've got less that's available. So like if you're on an annual premium, you make your first annual payment in, you've got most of it available, but even though you're done paying for the whole year, that cash value keeps growing all year long. And therefore it also unlocks more that you're able to then borrow out.
Good call. Yep.
Yep. So,
watching
go back and
that.
look at your policy tools, and that'll kind of give you a guide there. And Lydia, I can contact you later to make sure that's clear for you.
Thanks.
I agree, Ethan. That was great. Couple more questions, and then we have time for a few more too. So Peter's saying, can you take a HELOC loan to contribute to PUA and then take the loan to pay back the HELOC? That's the double black hole
Take
right
a
there,
loan
right?
for a
That's
HELOC.
the double black hole. What
I'm
are
waiting
you
for her to
using?
say that.
What are you using the HELOC loan for? Are we putting it into something that makes us more money? Or are we just taking a loan to pay a loan to put back in to fill up the hole? You just dug a hole. Now you have to make more money.
If I have an opportunity and I've got money in the HELOC and I have room in the PUA and I know I can take out the amount I need for the opportunity, then yeah, I'll go ahead and run it from my HELOC through to my policy as PUA, put it back into the HELOC until the opportunity is ready to pull it out and start paying me that cash flow.
Okay.
Very good.
And then right now, final question so far is Jeremy saying, would it be a better option to take my nest egg and combine it with my HELOC money to start a policy and then take money out to pay off HELOC so I can reinvest the HELOC money to cover premium and make a spread?
Oh. Yeah, so he came back around after. Yeah, so that's.
Just to clarify too, when he's saying nest egg, is that cash into savings account, or is that pulling from your 401k?
Yeah.
Well, nest egg, I would think it would be savings account.
And my HELOC is my savings account.
Yeah.
Because if I have a HELOC and was used to pay off the mortgage, then that means there's a balance that I'm being charged simple interest on that HELOC. So if I have a nest egg over here that I'm earning, be generous. We'll even say 4% because you found an amazing bank. That 4% still only negates 4 of the 8% that you're being charged on the remaining balance in the HELOC. Mm-hmm. So it's better to keep your savings there because then you're reducing your overall cost for the monthly interest payment on the HELOC.
Yeah, if there's money laying around and you're making, the regular less than 1%, and you're paying 8% or 9% in your HELOC, you're losing money. So that's why I say all the money sitting around should be in the HELOC because now you're not paying interest on the money that you have. And then you want to take that, run it through a policy, and then put the money into an investment to bring you back interest. So now we're utilizing leverage and arbitrage. So yes, perfect. There it is. The HELOC is the nucleus, the savings, the checking account, and the investment account. Run it through the policy. Policy goes into the opportunity. The interest comes back into the HELOC along with your W-2. The HELOC pays the monthly bills. The HELOC pays the HELOC. The HELOC pays the policy. Once you acquire enough money inside the HELOC, we deploy it to make more cash flow to fill up the HELOC again. Utilizing, just like I said, leverage, borrowing from the bank at 8%, making 12-15%, and arbitrage, that's making 6% free money back into the HELOC.
All right.
Can we do it? Oh, almost.
Using BYOB funded from profits of the sale of a property, can IBC be used as business?
Using it.
He's not talking Coley, right? Oh.
Well,
I think so. I mean, he doesn't have. So Jay owns a lot of real estate properties. Some properties up in Alaska. So if he sells it,
Let's talk.
from sale of property tax benefits. So Jay, the policies are funded with pre or post tax dollars. So keep that in mind. So the tax benefits are actually inside the policy, not outside. That makes sense. And then can IBC be used as a business? As a business, you can. Usually, I would use it to fund grow your business. Usually, we don't see a business owning the policies very often because there's a lot of complications associated with that when it comes to taxes. By the way, but that's definitely something that we can probably get into a little more on our next call. I'm trying to understand the question a bit more. I'm not sure if I understand it.
It's okay. And we got a couple more questions, so you guys can handle that on your call. And then Nina is saying, if one lost income or was hospitalized, how long before a policy can be canceled for non-payment or lapse?
So what they'll do, if you're not paying premiums, they'll start defaulting using your cash value to take a loan and pay your premiums. And it's just going to depend on how much you have in there. And after they exhaust that, you're typically 30 days from lapse at that point. And then you do have the ability to reinstate even if it does lapse. So there are some options there.
And Nina, remember when I was talking about the base and the PUA? The base is the little amount. So if somebody were running $1,000 a month through the policy, that little amount might be $200-$300. That extra amount, that $700, is the run through, the banking portion. So you would have to pay the $200, the $300 to keep the policy enforced. And then once you got the job again, then you'd be able to run that $700 through and play catch up even to get you back to where you were. So you could always drop it to the little amount, the base, and then bring it back up again to pay the PUA.
That's a good point. That's really awesome. Okay, 2 last questions. Sorry, guys, trying to run through them. So little brown dog is saying, what are your thoughts on the strategy of locking in your insurability early with a convertible term life policy, then converting it into a whole life later when you have a larger dump in?
Do it.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah, keeps that rating.
Okay. And then Dawn is asking, is it possible or worth it to take a loan from your 401k to fund the whole life insurance, and how would that work?
As long as it makes sense to you, yes. So that's one thing I would say, because we're not going to give that kind of financial advice on that one. But as you learn this, it can definitely make sense to do that, or the opposite. So do I have clients doing that? Yes. But it makes sense to them because we did the math and looked at their cash flow, look at what they would use the money for. And their answer was, yes, this makes sense to me. So that would be my answer, is it has to make sense to you first. But we can help you with that process.
We had an agent on our team do that just because it made sense for her.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Love it. All right, thanks, guys. And Dexter's saying, book that call, tell them your vision, and they will quarterback your goals. And again, I'll put that in the chat. So it's mentors.beyourownbigger.com.
As always, thanks for bringing all the questions. Thanks for bringing the energy. Thanks for bringing the fun. It's always good to be here and have different questions. I'm learning something every week here. I don't know if everyone else is, but I learned a little bit something, a different way to say something, a different way to think about it from all of you. So I appreciate you. And Joe, I don't know what I'm learning from you, but you're here, brother. It's your
Burn.
Just because I love you, Joe. Watch, I'll even make you happy. Watch.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Where'd he go? Where'd he go? All right, everyone. Johnny,
That's it. Thanks, everybody.
That's
all right,
it.
I'm
Okay.
ending the
All right,
stream.
thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.